When we look at Rosalie Hale, the world trains us to see her beauty first, a biological imperative, a force of nature that stops conversations mid-sentence and steals the breath from everyone in her orbit. But to Rosalie, that beauty is no gift. It is a crime scene. To understand why she is the sharpest, most guarded soul in the Olympic Coven, you have to look past the golden hair and marble skin. You have to find the night her life stopped and her stasis began. Most vampires see their transformation as an upgrade, or at the very least, a second chance. For Rosalie, it was the forced erasure of her agency, the moment she stopped being a woman with a future and became a monument to a traumatic past. In 1933, Rosalie stood at the peak of her social value, young, admired, on the brink of the life she had been raised to want, a rising star in a patriarchal world that saw her as a prize to be won. And that is exactly what destroyed her. The assault she suffered was never just a physical act of violence. It was the systematic erasure of everything she was meant to become. Carlisle found her dying in the street, abandoned by the man who claimed to love her. He changed her, thinking he was saving her life. From Rosalie's perspective, he was just locking the door to her prison. He took a woman at her brightest and froze her there forever, turned her into a statue of the very thing that had made her a target, her physical perfection. This is the root of her sharpness, the source of that cool, detached energy. She is not simply mean to Bella. She is a woman who has lived a century inside a body that refuses to age, refuses to heal, refuses to change. Imagine being 18 for 10 decades, trapped in the exact form that made men feel they had a right to own you. Every time she looks in a mirror, she sees the version of herself that was murdered. A survivor forced to wear her trauma as a permanent, unblemished mask. She cannot grow an inch. She cannot change her hair. She cannot even carry a scar to prove she made it through. She is perfectly, agonizingly static. This stasis is a psychological nightmare the other Cullens never fully acknowledge. Carlisle has his medicine. Edward has his music. Esme has her quiet work of building and mending. Only Rosalie truly mourns the loss of her biological evolution. She does not want to be a goddess. She wants to be a woman who grows old and then dies. She wants the right to decay, because decay is proof you have truly lived. Turned into a vampire, she was robbed of the one thing that gives life meaning, the ability to move toward an ending. Trapped in a permanent now, a high-definition porcelain snapshot of the worst night of her life. She carries herself with that steely edge because she has nothing left to lose. She has already walked through fire. She has already died once. She has no patience for human pleasantries because she knows how hollow they are. She watched 1930s social graces hide monsters underneath, watched a perfect marriage curdle into slaughter, so she performs for no one. She never smiles just to make others feel comfortable. Her coldness is her armor. It is her way of saying her beauty is no longer for public consumption. A granite wall she built to protect the grieving girl trapped inside. To be Rosalie Hale is to see the world with terrifying clarity, yet never truly touch it again. We often fixate on the Cullens' visual majesty, but rarely consider the sensory deprivation of being made of living stone. For her, the body is no temple. It is a high-definition isolation chamber. Skin as hard and cold as granite acts as a tactile barrier, cutting her off from the human experience she mourns most. She can crush a steel bolt with her bare hands, but she can no longer feel the soft yield of a velvet petal or the warmth of a summer breeze against her neck. Her existence is a paradox, heightened perception, paired with total physical numbness. This sensory void forms the second layer of her prison. As a human, she lived for sensation. The rustle of silk dresses, the scent of fresh flowers, the closeness of a world that felt real because it was soft, because it was vulnerable. Now everything she touches feels like a mirror, throwing her own hardness back at her. The world has become a museum she can look at, but the glass between her and the exhibits is her own skin. That tactile isolation carves a deep psychological distance. It is hard to feel connected to a world that feels like cardboard next to your own indestructible density. This is why she is so drawn to mechanics, to the cars she strips and rebuilds with meticulous care. In the garage, the world makes sense. Metal is supposed to be hard. Engines are supposed to be precise, unyielding. Working on a car turns her strength and endless stamina into assets, not curses. She can control a machine in a way she can never control her own frozen evolution. The smell of oil, the grit of the workshop, are the closest she comes to a real sensory experience. A sharp, steely sanctuary where her granite hands finally have a purpose that has nothing to do with destruction. To understand the friction between Rosalie and Bella, you have to stop reading it as a rivalry between two women. It runs far deeper. It is the friction between one person desperate to escape a burning building and another fighting to get inside. When Rosalie looks at Bella, she does not see a threat to her status or a competitor for her brother's affection. She sees a reckless girl ready to throw away the one thing Rosalie would give her soul to keep, a biological timeline. Bella chases a shortcut to forever. Rosalie is a prisoner of that same forever, screaming from behind the bars of her immortality. She was frozen at a very specific psychological crossroads. In 1933, she was stepping from girlhood into womanhood, already expecting to become a mother. That maternal instinct did not vanish when her heart stopped. It was preserved in amber, solidified into stagnant, unyielding grief. Every human mother with a child, every faint heartbeat she hears, land like a physical blow against her granite chest. She is a woman trained for a role she will never be allowed to play. That is the tragedy of her stasis. Most people move through grief and eventually reach acceptance. Rosalie is biologically incapable of that stage. Every second, her body tells her it is still 1933 and her child is still dead before it ever drew breath. Her resentment has never been rooted in vanity. It grows from a profound sense of injustice. Why would a girl with everything, the chance to age, to create life, to simply be human, trade it all for the cold, hard silence of the Cullens world? Her sharpness is a defense against the absurdity of Bella's choice. Her way of saying, "You have no idea what you are giving up, and I will not pretend your suicide is romantic." She is the only one in the family who refuses to sugarcoat the vampire condition, the anchor of reality in a household of idealistic immortals. Seeing Rosalie Hale in a high school hallway means watching a masterpiece of social performance, one fueled by quiet, bone-deep exhaustion. Imagine the mental toll of repeating the same 4 years of adolescence for a century. For her, the high school cycle is no nostalgic trip. It is endless, low-stakes theater, forcing her to play a role she outgrew in 1933. A woman with the life experience of a centenarian survivor, physically shackled to a desk, pretending to care about geometry and prom dates. This is the ultimate irony of her beauty. It shoves her back into the very institutions that only value her for her surface, again and again, until repetition itself becomes psychological torture. Her steely detachment there is no mere attitude. It is a survival strategy. If she let herself engage with the human world genuinely, the absurdity of her position would crush her. So she wears her beauty as a barrier, leans into the Ice Queen persona because it builds the distance she needs to stay sane. She does not want to be liked by the humans around her. She wants to be left alone by them. Every admiring glance from a teenage boy is a microaggression, a reminder she is still being judged by the same shallow metrics that destroyed her in Rochester. Her razor-sharp edge is how she reclaims her space, an aura that says, "I am beautiful, but I am not for you." Her vanity, so often misread as narcissism, is actually a form of armor. She maintains her appearance with disciplined, almost military precision because it is the one piece of her public identity she can control. If the world insists on seeing a porcelain doll, she will make sure that doll is flawless, intimidating, entirely out of reach. She has weaponized her own aesthetic, uses her beauty like a flashbang, blinding people to her internal rage so she can move through the world unchallenged. It is a brilliant way to live, and an exhausting, lonely one. In the natural world, trauma is a wound that eventually becomes a scar, a point on a timeline you move past, a ghost that loses its voice as you grow, age, and finally find the peace of an ending. For Rosalie Hale, there is no after. There is only a permanent, high-definition now. Because her body refuses to decay, her psyche is denied the natural work of resolution. She must evolve emotionally, while her physical form remains a monument to the very night she was destroyed. This is the ultimate curse of her immortality. She is a living record of her own victimization, polished to a mirror shine, and she can never look away. She is the most human of them all, because she is the only one who refuses to stop mourning her humanity. A hero of the mundane, a woman who wakes every night to a world that can never give her what she wants, and still moves with precision, with grace, with a terrifyingly clear sense of self. In the end, Rosalie Hale's tragedy is not that she is a monster. It is that she is a masterpiece that can never be finished. A story cut off mid-sentence. No matter how many cars she fixes, no matter how many lives she saves, she will always be that girl in the Rochester street, waiting for a life that was stolen. Her beauty is her burden. Her strength is her solitude. Her immortality is an endless corridor with no door at the end. She is the sharpest blade in the Cullen arsenal, not because she craves fight, but because she was forged in a fire that never goes out. Rosalie Hale, the woman who refused to fade away. The reminder that the greatest act of rebellion is to stay who you are, even when the world demands you become a statue.